video part 8.2. It's a video for very basic Linux commands. It's going to help you move around the operating system and how to read and look at some very simple system files. One of the first things you're going to want to know how to do is to know what directory you're currently located in. So if you run the command pwd, it will tell you which directory you're in, and we're in the home directory for the user Pi. If, for example, we wanted to change into a directory, we would run the cd command. I'm going to go change directory and give the path of / etc. And if I then run the pwd command, I'll now see I've now moved into that etc directory. Again, if I run the clear command, it'll just clear the screen, so we're starting afresh. Okay, so now we're in this /etc directory. I may want to look at some of the files that are in this directory. I can do that by running the ls, the list command, which will basically list all files within that directory. Although just that command on its own gives us just the names of the files, no details on the files themselves. So one of the next things we may want to do is add a switch, which is this part here is the -l, which gives us a little bit more information about that particular file. So if I do ls-l, what we can see here is a bit more information about the file. Again, on the right hand side we have the file name, we have when the file was last modified, so the year, date, time, the size of the file in bytes, the owner of the file, and the permissions of access that that file currently has. Now, there are certain files that we may want to look at that are more important than others. One, for example, is the file resolve.conf, which in the previous video talks about how we where our name servers our information is stored. If we run the more command, which is a command that allows you to read a text file, we can run more and then give the name of the file and hit enter, and it will allow us to read that particular file. Now, say for example I wanted to back up this file. What I could do is I can make a copy of the file. So obviously we don't have copy and paste in terms of click with your mouse, it's all on the command line. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the command copy. We're then going to select the resolve.conf file, and then what we're going to do is we're going to leave a space, and we're going to give this backup file a new name. So I'm going to call it resolve.conf, but I'm just going to, at the end of it, I'm going to put .backup. This is an example of where I haven't given it the root command. So what I will need to do is to put in front of this command sudo, which gives me root privileges to be able to make alterations to the system. Now I've done that, I'll be able to have a look and do an ls-la, and if I have a look, and I will be able to see that I have a file called not only resolve.conf but a resolve.conf.backup. So I've now made a backup of my file. We'll now see that the file has been made at 2 o'clock on that May the 10th. Now, for example, say I wanted to move that backup file to the home directory of my Pi users. So originally we had the directory /home/pi. If I wanted to move that backup file to that directory, I could use the command move. So what I'll do is I'll put sudo in front to give me root permissions to do that. I'm going to give myself root permissions, run the move command, I'm then going to say which file I want to move, and then I'm then going to say which directory I'm going to put that in. So when I run that command, that file will then be moved. If I do an ls-la again, and we have a look, we'll see that that file resolve.conf.backup is no longer there. However, if I move into the Pi directory and do an ls-la, we can now see that that resolve.conf.backup file is there. If we view that file, we'll see that it's a copy of the original file. Very basically, we've read a file, copied it, backed it up, and obviously moved it into a different directory. Now in this directory here we have two files, my backup file and a test file I made earlier on today. Now what I may want to do is delete or remove one of those files. So the simplest thing I can do is use the command rm, which will allow me to remove that file, and then I can then name the file I wish to remove. In this instance it's going to be the text file. If I then look, I will find that I have now removed that file. Now one of the next things I might want to do is make a blank file that I might want to start using for scripting or programming, or just a temporary file to put some data in. So I'm going to use the command, touch, which will create a very basic file. I'm going to do recreate this file I just deleted, called test.txt. If we do an ls on there again, we can see that file has been created. What I might want to do though is to move that into a directory. So what I can do is I can create a new directory called, we'll call for example backup. So if I run the command mkdir backup, that will be make a dir directory called backup. If I then do an ls in there, I will then see that I have not only got my original backed up resolve.conf file, the new test file I've created, and my backup directory. The D at the beginning of the permissions here denotes that it is a directory. If, for example, I wanted to move these two files into that directory there, what I could do is I could say move test.txt into backup, and I could also move resolve.conf into backup. If I then run my ls-l, those two files appear to have gone missing. If I move into the backup directory and then have a look in there, we can now see that they are within that file. Now, say for example I'd forgotten where I'd put that backup file or that test file. One of the useful commands I can use is find. I'm going to start with find space /, which would allow me to search from the front of the root file structure. I will then do the switch -name, so I'm looking for the name of that file. I'm then going to put in test.txt, which is the file we just created. I'm going to also have to remember to put in sudo at the beginning of that so I can run the permissions through there. And I'll let that run for a moment, and it will then tell me the path and where I've stored that file. Another example would be if I was to put in here the resolve.conf file, it will tell me that that's in / etc., which is what we expected. So finally, one of the most useful things we can do is we can use the man command. Now, for example, the find command gives us an incredibly large amount of options. We can look for files by their name, by their file size, by when they were created, when they were modified, all those types of different things. So it can be a bit daunting as to what commands and what options we have available on any particular command. So if we use the command man, it will give us a manual for that particular command. For example, here we can do man on the find command, and it will give us all the information we need to know in assisting us in learning how to use that particular find command.
So this has been a short 10-minute video on how to use some very basic Linux commands. You should hopefully be able to use these against your Raspberry Pi, and I hope that you found them useful.